Now for this video I will be talking about a void and the necessity of a void in our lives. Now I may or may not have taken mind-altering substances for this video, but it will become readily apparent that the hat is necessary. The parakeet not so much, so I disposed of it. But the hat is definitely necessary. Now, we need a void in our lives. We need an absence of things in order to fill it with something else. Many of us feel that society itself is an absence of our individuality, our personhood. A place that we can insert ourselves as a conduit, that we can funnel to the rest of society, something that we and we alone have to give. It can be a compassionate exchange. It can be an exchange of understanding, an exchange of spirituality, emotional understanding, an exchange of political understanding. Whatever makes us us, the void that exists between us and society, and even in society, allows us to insert ourselves. Now, the vast majority of people in society do not make up the rules of society. We just find this void with very loose rules, and we try to insert ourselves and kind of fit ourselves in along with everyone else. This is what makes a society. This is what forms a culture. Now, a culture evolves. There needs to be a void here and there periodically. There needs to be a shifting of cultural acceptance of what a people is, and that is where youth comes in. That is where the people who are going to basically supply the culture with individuality. That is where the youth come in, and we allow ourselves to become that society. But there are older traditions that tend to try and make a framework for what we are to be. We have to do away with the older traditions the vast majority of the time. Some older traditions are good. Sometimes it's good to believe that everything is ultimately a part of the same thing, like in Vedanta, or that nonviolence is the best way to go. That to get one's point across and to operate in conjunction with the society, there must be an understanding of nonviolence. But it is always very not necessarily liberal politically, but liberal in the sense that there's a liberal looseness of rules as far as what a society is. There are certain things that make a society compatible as far as individuals being compatible with one another. There needs to be a willingness to listen to one another. There needs to be a willingness to exchange ideas and not just force one's ideas on other people. There needs to be a void in society after every generation that allows new people to come in, new people to change it. And this is what happens in individualistic societies, whether people realize it or not. In collective societies, there is a far more rigid code. There's a far more rigid demand on what a society is, and you having to conform to that standard. But when it comes to the arts, when it comes to expressing ourselves as individuals, individual societies are key, are very beneficial. When it comes to making society function as a one, collectivistic societies are important. So that doesn't mean, just because I'm in favor of individuality, that does not mean that collectivist societies are not valuable. They progress in a different way, in a completely different way than Western societies most of the time. And I live in the United States of America. Living in the United States of America, the most individualistic society, we get this bias towards everyone being an individual and not having to conform, not wanting to conform. But in collectivist societies like China, or definitely North Korea, but South Korea as well, and Japan, there is this intrinsic cultural need to fit in and be a part of what everyone is doing. But that belays invention. That staggers invention. I'd like to say something rather, vague and judgmental, but Japan is very good about developing technological ideas that have already been invented. The United States is very good at inventing things, but Japan is better at developing those ideas and making them better. This is the relationship between the individualistic society and the collectivist society. And as we understand ourselves as a society, and as we start to realize the scope of human history, we start to realize that every society is operating in conjunction, because there is this void in between us, but also this void in every new generation. Because if a Japanese, for instance, in a collectivist society, if an older Japanese man was not open to new technologies to be improved, then the collectivist society could not be focused. It could, taking a new invention that was maybe made in the West, like an iPhone, could not be improved because it wouldn't be part of the psyche of the older person in Japan. But since there's a new generation accepting new technology, there's this void created between the generations. That means that the new generation can focus on what is now and make it better. In individualistic societies, it is very similar. If the older generation could only invent things within their scope of idea, then they forced it onto us, then we would never invent anything. But if the youth of our nation become more favorable to the ideas that are being pulled by the grander humanity, that are being developed in all corners of the world, especially with the communication that we have now, then invention is always just around the corner. And then once something is invented, it has to be improved. So we see this global technological and societal connection that we've never seen before. And when it comes to ourselves and how we view ourselves, whatever society you're in, we're starting to realize the different aspects of the self. We're starting to realize that we each have our own individual psychologies. We each are this point that is the ego between the id and the superego. And then, that's decades past, but I think it's still relevant. And we're starting to realize that our egos are a little bit different than the past generations. And we are not held back by the past generations. Sociologically, we're starting to realize that when it comes to numbers, our society in America are really down on math. we have not been producing high-quality math students to the degree that other societies have, and collectivist societies have. We have not been producing scientists at the rate that collectivist societies have. But we have been producing art. We have been producing inventions and the side of craft in relation to technology. We have been starting to understand ourselves in a very Eastern, Vedantic, or even Hindu way of all the gods really being part of the same whole one God, I guess you could say, the source. We're starting to realize that, to use a Game of Thrones reference, that there is a many-faced God with all of our faces and all the gods' faces on the surface, and that we are behind it, and the gods are behind it. And the gods perform different functions of the grander whole, different major functions, while we perform our own individual missions that our soul is on and trying to achieve, trying to cooperate with other souls on in order to make humanity a more perfect union of people, and trying to figure out where we're going, where we should go. It's not about returning back to a time where we were more spiritual or religious, where we believed in God. It's not about taking a political ideal and making everyone that politic. It's not about embracing one kind of culture. It's about moving forward with all of these ideas, taking everything into consideration, and seeing what our individual egos can produce as we all plug into this void that is the space between this generation and the past generation. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been interesting. I've been very focused today. My brain operates a little differently on different substances. But if you have any questions, comments, concerns, not regarding what I took, shoot it down in the comment section below on YouTube. If you want to shoot that like button down there, it really helps out the channel. If you want to subscribe to see more videos like this or videos with similar topics, feel free to subscribe. And it really makes me feel like I'm reaching out to the grander humanity, the grander whole that we're all a part of when you subscribe. And I always listen to what you have to say. I read every comment, and I respond to most comments. The only ones I don't respond to are the ones that are just blatantly hateful, and sometimes I delete the most like racist ones. But I try to respond to everybody because this is about an exchange. It's never about one person owning anything. It's about an exchange between people. One person kind of creating a platform, and then that is a platform for exchange based on the design of that person. In this case, it's a spiritual YouTube channel. But even if it's based on my design, the only way that this design can be beneficial for everyone, even myself, is if we exchange on this platform. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see all of you on my channel in the future.